Oop. So we're looking at your inspiration drawings. A couple things to go over. So one, I want to clear up, for right now, any pre-sketch work you do for the project we're on, that's your home, that counts for like homework and sketches and all that. So you can take a picture of it and then just load that into the same file that the projects do. I'm going to share screens with you real quick so people can see. So right now I'm on our lesson, but when you're in classroom, so for you guys, you shouldn't see all of these. This is all the advanced students, but when you click on for inspiration, you should have a turn-in button and you're just gonna add your pictures in there. Anytime you take a picture that deals with whenever you've done some artwork, just pop it in here. And eventually you'll put the final in there. One downside is that you have to unturn it and then return it back in, but it won't delete out your photos. It'll keep them all there, and it'll just keep a kind of a running diary of what's going on. Did you guys have any questions? Let me see what that message was, see if it's anybody. That's not for this class. All right then, let's just go over some basic ideas. Oh, wait. Hi, Kyle. As his audio is connecting. So we're going back to sharing screens again. Pop this guy open. So we already had the classroom discussion, hi Cole, of what is our source of inspiration. And then from those sources, you're going to generate a image that is purely yours, that you use your inspiration source to generate. So the ancient Greeks called something that gave them inspiration a muse. And it's just something that kind of helps you generate your ideas of what you're making. So as we look through this, some of the key things is you can use symbolism inside of your drawing to help kind of convey some of your ideas. 10% of this work minimum must be a different media. And again, we're going to let watercolor count as a drawn media. Definitely want something that expresses a mood. And obviously, because it's from your source, it's going to be self-expressive. We definitely want to have focal points. I'm going to allow text for this, though text tends to draw people's attention. Hopefully you guys have your paper. A lot of you are doing the small size. I think for a lot of our projects, we're gonna end up doing small size. So since we're all here right now, a couple of things that we wanna go over as I move a sketchbook into position is, like, what are you doing to make your images happen or your ideas? So for me, when I was just recently sculpting, I was using my music sources. So I'm listening to songs that I like, and I kind of was going through my playlist just to keep my workflow going. So I wasn't really listening to the words. It was a motivation for me working. So what kind of sources are you guys using for your inspiration? He paused and hoped that they started typing or unmuted themselves and said something. Music, travel, kind of sort of music. songs with lyrics that have a story. So I think one of the things I wouldn't want to see. So we're going to go share screen. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to switch cameras. I don't think I would want to see this kind of an image. Oops, gotta let somebody in. Oh, Cole, you're on twice. Now, granted, this is symbolism. The music note where it appears, that is symbolic. But I wouldn't want something as a direct of an image as that, because if I'm using music, yes, I'm thinking music, but I don't necessarily want this, because it's just too direct. It's not a super creative source. When I'm listening to music, what is the purpose behind that music itself? So to me, when I'm listening to, it is the rhythm of the music is helping my work process. And I want to make sure that that's what you guys understand. I don't want to see a drawing of your source of inspiration. I want it to be a personally creative artwork. And I want you to say, during the creation of this, I used inspiration from, and then fill in your from. Is that making sense to everybody? Does anybody have some pre-sketches that they want to share so we can kind of look through them? Yes, and big no, Olivia. So let me see if I can pull something up for you guys. And I'll show you something that recently I was doing. I only have the mountain sketch that I did last week. If you have it so you can share it through a camera, Kyle, that'd be cool. And then we can all talk about it. All right, so while you guys are doing that, Wednesday night, I started working on, and I made this guy. So he was, so it's a hybrid creature, so it kind of covers a couple of ideas, and I was kind of laying out his pose. So right now he's in a flat form in this program. So made everything. I did the head first, and the head came from, I was talking with another artist, and he was making elephant men, and I went through and said, hey, I can do something like that. And I made a rhino guy, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to build up his body. So what you're seeing here is a rough clay build. It's a digital sculpt, but I've got a pose for him. He's kind of in a kind of slight jog, and I was adding parts to him. But the inspiration behind this was through music. So I'm listening to music while I'm doing it. I'm listening to His pose comes from the type of song that I was listening to. Eventually I went through and I kind of changed up his body somewhat. So he's got more of a frontward lean to him. And I've kind of built him up a little bit different now, because when I looked at it, I liked what I had at first, but I thought I could do better. So I'm pushing myself to do better. So Pascal's Mountain, have any of you guys started your sketches yet? Carson says yes. Olivia, you said yes and big no. Is it the fact that you're coming up with the source of the idea that's giving you a problem? Sort of. I think if you guys are really, really struggling to come up with an idea, there is some stuff we can do. And let's see. I can put in I think the biggest thing I would do, it says failed to start the video camera. Let's try this. I think what I would do is I might listen to, since a lot of you are doing music, listen to music and maybe start with a list of words that come to mind while you're listening to the song. So if you're listening to slow music, what do you think of? Do you hear a babbling brook? Do you hear birds? Do you hear an outside scene? And that's what I'm going to build my artwork from. So the music is the influence, and kind of just let it guide you. If you're listening to like hard rock, and as you're kind of pushing through a song that's maybe more about rhythm and beat, how does that rhythm and beat make you feel? Does it make you feel like your heart's pumping? Does it get your adrenaline going? So Kyle's having a camera problem right now, so he can't show us the mountain. So basically what I want you guys to do is, the subject is completely up to you. We're gonna do drawn medias. You want to pick 2 minimum, and you want to try a couple different ones. Don't be afraid to experiment with color. So don't just use a flat out, flat one color monochromatic, or use one pencil and a Sharpie. Try to play around with some of these things. If you think abstract, then go ahead and give us an abstract drawing. Maybe you have bright spots of color when the music hits a high note, and then maybe you have kind of some neutral grays as it transitions from area to area. I'm going to go to school today. I'll probably leave here between 12:15 and 12:30. I'm going to pick up supplies, and I'll put them in a box in the front lobby. Kyle has told me he needs a couple things for sculpture class. Does anybody need something for drawing class? Paper, pencils, color pencils? Or did you guys get your supplies and you're good? The bird will definitely be in the box, Kyle. Kyle, did you need a cardboard to go with that too, or no? Cool. All right, guys and gals, unless you have specific questions, you can bounce for now. I'm glad you're good, Olivia. Okay, so Carson asked if I do marker and oil pastels, which do I think I should do first? I would start with oil pastels. Try to keep them neat, try to keep them contained, because if you go over the boundary with an oil pastel, the marker's not going to cover it. So you want to make sure that you lay everything down. Okay, so I'm going to change my mind a little bit. If you put the marker down first, oil pastel will go over the top of it. So if you think, hey, I'm sloppy, put the marker down first. If you say, hey, I'm neat when I do my stuff, then put the oil pastel down first, knowing that you're going to have your defined areas that are just oil pastel, and then lay down your markers. So it depends on, are you neat or clean when you do your areas? And I would practice with my oil pastels first. One of the downsides is if you accidentally, like if a flake of oil pastel comes off and you don't notice it and it rubs into the paper, or even if it sits on the paper and you pick it up, if it leaves that oil stain, the marker is going to have a hard time going over that. Even, I mean, if you're using Coptic markers or if you're using Sharpie markers, it's still going to, that oil stain from the pastel is going to bleed into the paper, and it's going to change how the paper does absorption. So if that happens, I would make that spot an oil pastel spot. Does that help, Carson, as I decided to change my mind halfway through? Practice first, figure out if you're neat or messy. To me, there's great things you can do with pastels. If you do put the marker down first, you can try to cover some of the area of marker with pastel, and you can try to scrape that pastel back and see if you can expose some of the marker, but the oil from the pastel will change those values. You're a mess, yeah. We kind of remember that. So I think if I'm messy, I put down marker first. Okay, how do I keep my watercolors from mixing? This is from Olivia. Like when I outline it, it ends and bleeds in with the other colors. Okay, so here's what you're gonna do, is I do my light pencil sketch first. Then I take a clean brush and I go into a little bit of water. And I'm gonna just put down a little bit of water on my paper. Then when I add and the water goes in where I want the watercolor to be. So then I paint this area, and even if it starts to diffuse color, it's only gonna go onto the wet paper. It's gonna stay in that little wet zone. Let that area dry, and then when you start to do your next one, you make another controlled barrier with water, and you paint over that zone. The biggest thing is if my two watercolors are wet and they touch, they're gonna wanna bleed. So I put down one area, let it dry, then I put down the second area. That's gonna control all of your bleeding. It takes a little bit longer, but you end up with a better, neater, nicer result at the end. Don't forget, as you guys are working through stuff, take pictures. You know, you can take a daily picture if you want. You can take a picture whenever you finish a session. If you do a couple of art sessions in a day, pick one to send to me, but otherwise you're good. Cole, Kyle, did you have anything about drawing? So when are the due dates for the project and pictures? Pictures are up to you. So I would think that I would have at least 3 pictures per project. The inspiration is March 27th, so it's 7 days from today. I figure if you put an hour in a day, taking out weekends, you're probably 8 to 9 hours for this project. If I do an hour session of drawing, I would probably take a picture of that, because I think in an hour I'd probably make some good progress. And then I would have 8 or 9 pictures total. All my sketch work and my starting stuff all the way through to my final, this is it picture. Carson said, if I'm drawing a side profile of a cat, how would I draw the eye? Because I only have the body and the head done. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go boop. Oh no, that's not the right button. We're gonna go boop. I'm gonna go over here. So first thing I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna do and I'm gonna pick whichever view gives me the best of what I'm looking for. So some of it depends on shape of cat's head. I mean, they're all similar, but there's some distinct differences. So I really like this guy. So now I've got a picture of him. So now we're gonna switch cameras again. And using that reference, and the bottom's probably a little bit big. Then I'm gonna come in, and for me, I really like the big shape to this green eye of this cat. Do that top eyelid. Cut under, hit this side part. Now, I would make a mark real quick. That's where the reflective light hits the eye lens. Just a quick little bend here for its iris. And then I want to give myself some notes. So I choke all the way back on my pencil. And my notes are the planes of the cat's face. So this is going to lead into its nose, its brow. And I just want to give myself a little bit of an undershadow. I'm not worried about fur texture right now. This is going to help me lay down the direction that this part of the face goes to. And then I can start to sweep for its cheek plane that comes out. And I'm going to rotate this a little so I can get a better angle. Now I'm using a 2B. I would do this with a much lighter pencil. I would probably do this with my 2H or my 4H just so I can get these laid down values. And then I can start to really play these planal zones before I even get my texture. And on an H pencil, this is gonna be super light. So I'll show you real quick. And I don't know if it's gonna come up. So I just grabbed a 6H. And as I look there, yeah, you can see the marks. Okay, that's cool. And I can leave this shading a little rough. I want to make sure that I'm covering the white of the paper, but this can be rough because it's going to help lead into when I start to do fur. But that's how I would use a visual reference that's going to give me the best of what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to do my sketch, and then I'm going to go onto my good copy, and I'm going to lay out my picture as I want. Switch back. Cool. Cole, did that explain due dates to you? Due dates are still pretty soft. I mean, if on the 27th you don't have it in, on the 28th, if I don't see something, I'll send you a thing that says, hey, I noticed you haven't turned this in yet. Did you need help? How are you doing? And we'll communicate that way. It is not, I mean, it's just like we are in the classroom. If it's not done on the due date, I will kind of look at you and go, will be an email that says, hey, I noticed you haven't turned this in yet. It is by far, again, we're in weird circumstances. So I'm not going to force you. I'm not taking off points. I'm looking for quality work. And this distance makes it a little bit harder for us to do. but I'm ready. I mean, if you guys ask me questions, I've got ways to show you. If you've got ways to show me your artwork, even if you have to email me something. So like right now I can check my email. And if you send me something and say, hey, Mr. Abel, I'm having a problem with this, you can send it to me. I also put in a Discord, and Discord, I've got it turned off right now because it dings while I talk. But in Discord, you can drop me messages. Anybody else? I should look for a sponsorship, you know, get a big sign back here for like Red Bull or something. Okay, so Kyle asked, you mentioned not directly related to music, such as music notes. Do you want me to change the idea that I had? No, Kyle, your idea is perfect because your image is more about the scenery in the mountains, and we're gonna mix that music into it. The idea of just music notes is the only part of the artwork. We don't want that happening. So you are on track. Now we just have to get on good paper. All right, so we're good for today, guys and gals. If you have questions, hang out. Otherwise, I will see you Tuesday. And then if you need help, Friday is all-day help sessions. So you can click on a time if you need it. And if this is giving you a hard time, we can try Google's Meet. We can try Discord. We can try whatever we have to hook up. Olivia asked, does inspiration need to be happy, or can it be something else? It can be anything. So if you have strong emotions, so sometimes if I get angry about something, I'll draw angry drawings. A lot of those drawings I don't keep, but it's an expression of my feelings. So whatever source you're using is what you're gonna do. Remember, we're gonna display it because I want to see it, and we might do a class critique if we can make it happen. But anything that can be inspiration. Sometimes for me, it'll be from a book. Sometimes, because I'm a nerd, like all these are nerd books back here. Those are Dungeons and Dragons. Those are Star Wars books. I get a lot of inspiration from that. And sometimes it just like pours out of me. And I go to town with it. So whatever your source is, it doesn't have to be happy, no. Enya music is very rhythmic. Mozart necessarily isn't happy at times, but he has very vibrant music. I love listening to some Mozart. That helps. Do you need your sources, like specific song or book? At the end, and that's from Carson, that is a great thing. I would like you to, it doesn't have to be in the title, but when we do our closure, we're gonna write a little paragraph about it. In that paragraph, you'll explain to me what was your source. So if it was, I listened to Blink 182, shout out, so hopefully they throw us money. If that was your source while you were doing this, you can just put down, listen to this album, or listen to their random songs. If it was a Game of Thrones book, or if it was The Hobbit, then you should list that in there. I drew a dragon because I really like the scene where Bilbo is confronted by Smaug. So Olivia asks, mental disorder, edgy, angsty stuff. All right, yes, very much so. I'd thought about doing pick a mental disorder and display it. There's a digital artist that I do when we do graphic arts, and he was hired to show visually only images of mental disorders, and they're awesome artworks because he combines photography with drawn media through Photoshop, digitally manipulated, and they came out really amazing. So yes, that's 100% Olivia. You are cool. It is a fun project, Carson. I think sometimes people get a little worried about it, but I mean, it's not that you have the disorder. It's something that you could work on. Oh, some people are having a hard time getting used to making meeting times. Someone who was supposed to be here an hour and a half ago has just said everything and says, it's not letting me into the meeting. So whatever your source is, and I'm the only one that's going to read the paragraph. If we do a group critique, you might talk about it, but I think these are all valid ideas. Olivia, if you want, I will look up that artist and I will I'll put a link in, or I'll email you a link to him. I will look for him today. It might come tonight because once I run into school and run back, then it might be after that. But I will get you that link. Maybe I'll post it in the YouTube thing. All right. So if you're good, you can say bye and bounce. And if you want to hang out for a couple seconds, if you have any other questions, otherwise we are golden.